The FIFA World Cup is a global event that captures the attention of billions of people worldwide. But what happens to stadiums after it's all over? With billions spent on constructing stadiums, many countries are left with huge empty spaces that have little use after the tournament ends. So what happens to these massive structures after the World Cup? Hey everyone, welcome back to the Future Law channel. In this video, we'll examine how some countries have transformed their stadiums into viable entertainment venues and how other countries have yet to be so successful in repurposing them. Stick till the end to know how brilliantly many countries manage their stadiums and repurpose them to spare money wasted on maintenance. After a World Cup ends, what happens to the stadiums? It's a question that's often asked. While some stadiums are kept in use for other events, others are abandoned. Abandoned stadiums are often left to decay and fall into disrepair. This is especially true in countries where the World Cup was not well received or where there was little infrastructure in place to support such a large event. In Brazil, for example, many of the stadiums built for the 2014 World Cup have been abandoned due to a lack of maintenance. Some stadiums are repurposed for other uses, such as concerts or conventions. Others are turned into training grounds for local teams or schools. A few are even demolished to make way for new developments. Whatever the fate of a stadium after the World Cup, it is always an epicenter of memories and history. After the World Cup, most stadiums are either demolished or abandoned. This is because they're no longer needed and are expensive to maintain. Sometimes the host country will try to sell the stadium, but often it's not worth the money. In some cases, the stadium is converted into a shopping center or a theme park. What happens to the host country's economy? The host country's economy typically experiences a boost during and after the World Cup. This is due to an increase in tourism as well as investment in infrastructure in preparation for the event. In the long run, however, it is often difficult for the host country to maintain the same level of economic activity. This is because the World Cup is a one-time event and therefore cannot provide a sustained boost to the economy. Now comes the most important question: what happens to the stadium? In many cases, the stadiums that are built for the World Cup are never used again after the event. This is because they are often located in remote areas and it's not economically viable to maintain them. In some cases, the stadium may be converted into a training ground for the national team or used for other sporting events. However, in many cases, the stadium simply falls into disrepair and becomes an eyesore. Let's take Brazil as an example. Brazilian stadiums were left in a state of disrepair after the 2014 World Cup. Many of the stadiums that were built for the event were never used again and fell into disrepair. This is especially true for the Arena da Amazônia, which was built in the rainforest and was only used for 4 matches during the tournament. The stadium has since been abandoned and is now in a state of disrepair. Many of the world's most iconic stadiums were built for specific events, like the Olympics or the World Cup. And while some venues are able to secure a steady stream of revenue after these major events, others are left struggling to find a way to keep the lights on. The case of Brazil is particularly interesting, as the country has hosted both the World Cup and the Olympics in recent years. As a result, Brazil has a number of high-profile stadiums that are now facing an uncertain future. For example, the Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro was renovated for both the 2014 World Cup and the 2016 Olympic Games, but with no major events on the horizon, it's unclear how the stadium will be used going forward. One possibility is that the Maracanã will be used as a concert venue or for other live events. However, it was possible that the stadium would fall into disrepair until a suitable use was found. Well, the Maracanã Stadium was renovated for the World Cup at the cost of $500 million. Today, it's mostly used for football matches and concerts, but it's also been used as a homeless shelter. The Itaquerão Stadium in São Paulo was also renovated for the World Cup at the cost of over $330 million. Today, it's used by the Corinthians, a local football team. However, the stadium has been plagued by problems, including leaks and sewage backups. The Arena Pernambuco in Recife was built specifically for the World Cup at the cost of $320 million. Today, it's used by Sport Club de Recife, a local football team. The stadium has been criticized for its lack of security and poor lighting. The Arena das Dunas in Natal was another stadium that was specifically built for the World Cup. This is just another example of how Brazil's post-World Cup landscape looks different than many expected. With a number of iconic stadiums now sitting empty, it remains to be seen what will happen to them in the years to come. After the World Cup, what happens to stadiums that hosted such a momentous event? To ensure their legacy, many of these stadiums are left intact. Some may be decommissioned or repurposed for local sporting events or concerts. Others have been renovated and remodeled to better accommodate fans and provide an even more enjoyable experience for them. Ultimately, by preserving these iconic sites of sports history with respect and reverence, we can honor both the memories made during the World Cup as well as those yet to come in years ahead. What happened to the Russian stadiums? In the wake of the 2018 FIFA World Cup, many are wondering what will become of the stadiums that were built or renovated for the event. For some host cities like Moscow, the answer is fairly simple: the stadiums will continue to be used for major sporting events. In other cases, however, the future of the stadiums is less certain. Take, for example, the Fished Olympic Stadium in Sochi. The stadium was built for the 2014 Winter Olympics and cost an estimated $779 million. It has since hosted several major sporting events, including the 2017 FIFA Confederations Cup. However, it's unclear what will happen to the stadium once its usefulness as a sporting venue comes to an end. The same can be said about the Volgograd Arena, one of the venues of this year's World Cup. The stadium was built specifically for the tournament and had a capacity of 45,000. It is unlikely that Volgograd will host another major sporting event anytime soon, so what will become of the arena once the World Cup ends? These are just two examples of the many questions surrounding Russia's post-World Cup stadiums. With most of them still relatively new, it remains to be seen what their long-term future will be. The cost of these renovations is estimated to be in the billions of dollars, and it's unclear how much of this cost will be shouldered by the Russian government and how much will be borne by private investors. In the meantime, Russia's World Cup stadiums remain empty and unused, a reminder of the country's ambitious but ultimately unsuccessful attempt to host a successful international soccer tournament. Qatar's unusual plan for their stadiums. Qatar is a small country located in the Middle East. It's bordered by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. Qatar has a population of 2.6 million people, most of whom are Muslim. The official languages of Qatar are Arabic and English. In June 2017, Qatar was awarded the right to host the FIFA World Cup in 2022. This will be the first time that the World Cup will be held in the Middle East. After Qatar was awarded the 2022 FIFA World Cup, it set about an ambitious plan to build 8 new stadiums for the tournament. However, with construction costs spiraling and concerns about the heat during the summer months, Qatar is now reconsidering its options. One possibility is to use air-conditioned stadiums, but that would be a huge expense. Another option is to move the tournament to the winter months, but that would cause havoc with other leagues around the world. So instead, Qatar is now considering using temporary stadiums that can be dismantled and reused after the World Cup. This would be a much more sustainable and cost-effective option, and it would also mean that Qatar could still host a tournament during the summer months. The awarding of the World Cup to Qatar has been controversial. Some have accused Qatar of buying votes in order to secure the hosting rights. Others have raised concerns about the country's human rights record, especially and particularly with regard to migrant workers. There were also concerns about whether Qatar will be able to deliver on its promises to build world-class stadiums and infrastructure for the World Cup. With just over 5 years to go until the tournament, there's still a lot of work to be done. But after the successful hosting of the FIFA World Cup in 2022, Qatar plans to give away their stadiums to developing countries. This is an unusual plan, as most countries that host major sporting events keep the stadiums for themselves. Qatar believes that its stadiums can be put to good use in countries that do not have the infrastructure to support large-scale sporting events. The Qataris are already in talks with several countries about donating their stadiums. This plan is sure to generate a lot of goodwill for Qatar and could potentially help developing countries improve their infrastructure. It'll be interesting to see if other countries follow Qatar's lead and donate their own stadiums after future World Cups. So that's all for today's video. Smash the like and subscribe buttons to show your support towards the videos. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching and have a great day.